Reading with Purpose and Understanding. According to the research of Irene Fountas and Gay Supinel, there are 6 dimensions of fluency: pausing, phrasing, stress, intonation, rate, integration. When all dimensions of fluency are working together, the reader will be using expressions in a way that clearly demonstrates that he is understanding the text and is even thinking beyond the text. Fluent reading develops when students experience expert modeling, levels of support that gradually move toward independence, and by providing many opportunities over time to practice reading. Fluency is not a stage of development at which readers can read all words quickly and easily. Fluency changes depending on certain variables: what readers are reading, their familiarity with the words, and the amount of their practice when reading text. Even very skilled readers may read in a slow, labored manner when reading texts with many unfamiliar words or topics. Reading is complex. The brain is required to integrate an enormous amount of information to build understanding. We must always keep understanding and thinking at the forefront of our reading instruction. In this lesson, we'll show students one way readers read with purpose and understanding, by asking questions and holding those questions in their mind as they read to find answers. Tim Rosinski's research highlights how fluency impacts comprehension. Fluency is important because it provides a bridge between word recognition and comprehension. Because fluent readers do not have to concentrate on decoding the words, they can focus their attention on what the text means, can make connections among the ideas in the text, and draw from background knowledge. The lesson objective for this session is to demonstrate how questions that are personal are also meaningful, and when we encourage and support our learners in asking and answering questions, they build confidence as readers. This lesson will highlight how a table of contents help readers find information easily to answer their questions. This lesson is 45 to 50 minutes. This lesson can be done as large or in a small group format with minimal modifications. This lesson assumes that students are at varying levels in their reading fluency, that they also have experience with asking and answering questions, and that students can identify parts of text, such as beginning, middle, end, table of contents, sections, chapters. It also assumes that students have experience completing graphic organizers. Materials needed for this lesson include student copies of the No Wonder Learned chart, or students can draw an organizer in their notebooks. A document camera or enlarged No Wonder Learned chart for the modeling portion of the lesson. A rich selection of texts that have a clear table of contents is recommended. These books should be made available for students to reference, or they can be used for continued practice in small group instruction. Lastly, your conferring notebook, or tool that you use to document your observations and notes from your student conferences and small group instruction. The explicit instruction sequence is critical. The students need to understand how today's lesson fits with yesterday's lesson. Research tells us that there's a greater impact in learning when students have an understanding of what it is they need to know and be able to do. Be sure students understand why this lesson lives in your classroom today. Here are some possible statements for the explicit instruction segment. This part of the lesson requires the teacher to be the expert in the room and model for guided strategy practice. Do one example on your own while students watch. This is the time for you to show the students how you generate questions and use the table of contents to locate pages where information might be to answer your question. Select a familiar, accessible book, such as Sea Turtles by Frank Staub, or anything by Gail Gibbons that has a clear table of contents. When modeling, use the document camera or an enlarged version of the organizer on chart paper to make sure all students can see and hear your modeling. Remember that modeling for students makes our words visible and our actions the exact model we're seeking to notice in our students' reading. Record one question that you formed on your own. Then, record one question based on a chapter title in the table of contents. This will help students see how the table of contents can help generate new questions and offer page numbers to find information. Move into the text and model talking aloud. Demonstrate how you skim and scan the table of contents to find the most likely place to begin finding information on your first question. As you locate and read information for one question, record answers in the Learned section of the chart. Use bullets, another text feature that you can choose to highlight, to record answers to show students how to shorten information to key words and phrases. The active engagement segment is an important element in the gradual release process. Remember, students who are struggling need time to process their thinking. This is the time for you to allow students the opportunity to walk through the process you just modeled with guidance. Allow students to determine the page number from the table of contents and support their answer with reasoning. Move to the page and read a portion. Then allow students to tell you what to record in the Learn section of the organizer. Record their words on your chart. This brief practice allows students to audition their thoughts and ideas before going off to work independently. The link and launch into practice is a brief reminder of the learning objective. This sets students off with a purpose for their practice time. This practice time can be done independently or in partnerships. You decide what's best for your students. Here's a couple of examples of how you might link and launch into practice. This is the time for you to check in with students. Notice what they're doing well and what support they might need when it comes to generating questions to read with a purpose. By moving around the room and conferring with individuals or small groups, you can collect evidence to share at the end of the lesson. This also is the time for you to record notes on how the strategy helps students set a purpose and read with understanding, and what might be next in your instruction. Take time to share, even if it's just a simple observation. This part of the lesson is critical to reinforce the lesson objective. Sharing can be done in a variety of ways based on the amount of time left in your schedule. Some options to consider. Highlight 1-2 student organizers that match proficiency, or invite one student to share what was discussed in your conference. You also might allow students to share what was learned in partnerships while you move around to listen in and record sound bites. Or you could simply use exit slips. Reflect on the learning. Ask students, what'd you learn about yourself today as a reader? Here's one way that you might use your share time. A formative assessment process in place helps you determine what your students need next. Here are some suggestions for collecting evidence of student learning and next step instructional needs. Within the lesson plan, you'll find helpful links to resources and additional routines to address reading fluently with purpose and understanding. Additionally, there are some short articles that provide insights into reading fluency and its impact on comprehension. Within the lesson plan, you'll also find student resources. They offer passages for practice, routines that can be set up in your classroom for ongoing practice, and tools for students to track their fluency growth over time. Here are the reading standards that are addressed and assessed in this lesson.